What I keep being too caught up by all my demons, lost without that love.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the monthly review here on the Total Villain YouTube channel, where myself and Howard Hodgson will go through the month of February for Aston Villa, looking at the highs, the lows, where Dean Smith's side went right, when they went wrong, and just overall looking at the positives and negatives from the month of February for Aston Villa as a whole. So Howard, again, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Liam. Yeah, it's all going in the right direction, isn't it? The pandemic. So hopefully soon things will get back to normal. Certainly, we're with the vaccine and stuff, we seem to be going in the right direction. So happy days.
Because it's been, like I said, we keep reiterating this point on this channel, but it's been a successful season so far for Aston Villa. And February, in terms of looking at it month by month, wasn't the most successful. But certainly recently with the win against Leeds United, there's a win against Arsenal. So there were key moments within the month. But losing to Leicester with no Grealish, drawing to Brighton, there were some difficult times within the month, which it almost taught Villa certain lessons to hopefully go forward and improve and become better.
Yeah, they're a work in progress, aren't they, as we've always said. And there are things evolving at the moment. We do seem to have changed a little bit our dynamic as a team since the COVID outbreak at Bodymoor Heath. We have become a less attack-minded unit, it seems, but also we've become very, very good defensively. Not to say that we haven't been good defensively all season, but I think we only scored 4 goals in a whole month. We scored 1 against West Ham in a 1-3 defeat. We scored 1 against Arsenal to win 1-0. We haven't managed to score more than 1 goal in a game for the whole month. And so there is definitely a shift in the way we're approaching games. You heard Smith after the Leeds game basically say that even at half time, where I thought we'd actually played quite well in the first half against Leeds and looked a little bit more dynamic going forward, he actually shifted the tactics at halftime for us to play a lower block. But I hope this isn't a direction that we're going to pursue long term, because I still think, as we've talked about before, that you need to approach games in an attacking mindset to really get to the top. I think playing like this, you'll see inconsistent results, which we have done. We saw 2 wins, 2 defeats and draw. So yeah, I think February could have been a lot worse. I mean, it could have easily have lost to Brighton, could have easily not got a result against Arsenal. They were under pressure for long spells in that game. And even the other night, I think we restricted Leeds very well the other night, I must say. I think that was, there was no real fortune in the victory. I think Martinez only made one decent save in the whole game. I would just like to see us as soon as possible get back to that sort of free-flowing football. But obviously with Jack out, Ross Barkley out of form, it makes it more difficult.
Looking at the West Ham game as well, because at that time in the league, we were very close to each other. But of course now West Ham have accelerated to higher points in the league, and we're just contesting around that mid-table point. But in terms of that game, I was really disappointed by Villa's style of play approaching that, because after being so consistent at times against the bigger teams, when we played West Ham, we looked frightened in a bit, and we stepped back and we allowed Lingard and Souček and all these different West Ham players to come forward and really hurt us. And defensively, we didn't look as strong as we were, and it wasn't a great start to the month really for Villa.
No, it followed, I think, the Southampton narrow victory, where, let's be honest, we were quite fortunate to win that game 1-0 with the Ings late goal just marginally offside and the penalty decision going our way, etc. So, there has been a bit of a pattern developing with the way we're playing at the moment, but focusing on that West Ham game, I think they came up with a very good game plan on the night. They sort of did a good number on Jack for most of the night. So he was sort of man-marked out the game. And then, they played between the lines and got in. We seem to have quite a large gap between midfield and defence, which Lingard exploited very well. and they were deserved victors on the night. I think that worried Smith, the way that they got into us so easily, really, particularly in the second half of that game. And I think that has contributed to this sort of shift in a slightly more defence-minded game plan since that game, which, again, I don't particularly want to see us playing that way long term, but I guess he's very mindful of each opponent, and he tries to approach games differently, I think. I thought we were very poor against Leicester last week, and deservedly lost. I know people mentioned it was an improved second half, but I think Leicester would just drop deep and allowed us lots of possession. But again, we only had 1 or 2 shots on target in the whole game.
In regards to that West Ham game, there's a certain player who was on a bad run of form at Manchester United, moved to West Ham and looks a really, really, really good player now. Jesse Lingard. I just want to know, what are your thoughts on him? Because he deserves that chance to play for a Premier League team, because he's shown it on the international stage with England. He showed it at Manchester United at times.
Yeah, he was definitely man of the match on the night. He was outstanding. The fact it was his debut. He hadn't played with these guys. He was brilliant on the night, and we couldn't handle him. We couldn't handle his movement, and we couldn't. We just didn't know how to handle him. And Man United, have got such a big squad and so many, high class players in his position, that he just dropped out of the frame. And so this is where a move is so necessary for certain players to kickstart their careers. And it was a bit like that with Ross Barkley when he first came to Villa, wasn't it? He'd been lost at Chelsea, and then he came in and was looking fantastic for us for the first few games, and now he's sort of got an injury and not come back quite the same. Lingard, clearly very talented individual, and as you say, he's had a few off-the-field problems, but I think now he has this opportunity. At the moment he's grabbing it with both hands. Whether that means that he goes back to Man U at the end of the season and re-establishes himself there, or whether he gets a permanent move to West Ham, or whether he moves somewhere else. Be interesting to see what happens with him. But I know that he's clearly rated by the England manager as well. So although there's so many players now that are in and around England in those sort of positions that he would have to leapfrog to get back into it, it's probably unlikely he'll feature in Euros. But yeah, certainly the move at the moment is looking like a good one for him. So I'm pleased for him.
I mean, at the start of the season as well, after just surviving relegation, I don't think anyone at this point of the season would have really predicted West Ham to be near the top 4, and a team that, of course, is below them. And for years upon years under Wenger, were constantly in that top 4. Arsenal, after the West Ham game, we went on to try and get that victory against Arsenal after a poor result against West Ham, and we did it with the early goal from Watkins, who again has been a pivotal part of Villa's team, especially during this time when Grealish is out. So I just want to again get your thoughts specifically on that game, and most importantly, Watkins' role within the team, because I know you speak very highly of him.
Yeah, I like Ollie a lot, because I think you never get less than 100% from him every game. His movement is pivotal to our success this season, the way he runs off the ball and makes himself available. And yes, he scored some critical goals, and none more so than that one. I mean, that game was quite similar in a way to the one that we just won a couple of days ago against Leeds, because early goal. I mean, Villa are absolutely the kings of winning this season from a winning position. I mean, I think that they now have the best record of when they score first. They don't lose. I mean, when my son Charles and I were watching the game on Saturday evening, and when El Ghazi put that goal in, he said, well, we could turn off now if you like, because we're definitely going to win, and it'll probably be 1-0. And he was right, because equally we're very poor. And as we go through the month, we'll speak about as well. When we let in the first goal, we clearly were as bad at that as we are as good as holding leads. So it seems absolutely pivotal to Villa at the moment to score the first goal in games, and especially an early goal. If they get an early goal, they seem very, very capable of holding leads. And they've, you remember, you're probably too young, but you'll remember it because you're a bit of a football aficionado, so you'll know about it. The very famous in the 80s, 70s and 80s, 1-0 to the Arsenal. It was like a real sort of, that was how they won games, particularly under George Graham. They would score a goal and they would win 1-0. And we've become really, really a bit like that. We've 1-0 to the Villa. It's and we did to Arsenal what Arsenal used to do to everybody, which was you score a goal and then take the points. And Arsenal had loads of possession, didn't they, in that game? And but again, didn't really make Martinez work too hard. He did make a couple of great saves. The one from the free kick in particular was pretty spectacular, and a couple in the second half. But Arsenal seemed to make a lot of bad decisions in the final third with all that possession. Often Pepe would waste good opportunities, and even their talented kids like Saka didn't have a particularly great game on the day. I do think Villa are very, very effective at, snuffling out teams. They let them have the ball when they're ahead in a game, but they seem to restrict them to few clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. And that's a testament to not only Martinez, but also the defence, who I think have been absolutely outstanding. I must tip my hat to Tyrone Mings. I think he's led the team defensively brilliantly. Took a bit of stick earlier in the season from a few of the fans, thinking he was a bit of a fancy Dan and trying to play out of defence too much. But I think he's been terrific, and Konza as well. They're a great partnership, and the fullbacks have been brilliant too. Obviously, Matt Cash has been out last couple of games, and we've missed him, but. They did a great job on that Arsenal game to Arsenal controlled possession, but not the match. So it was a worthy 3 points.
And the thing is as well, when last season we were so predictable and we were one-dimensional, and teams knew how to just avoid any form of attack from ourselves and really capitalise on our naivety, really. And this season we've learned to mould into different tactics. We're defensively sound, it's offensively going forward, we're effective. And like you said, it's a credit to Dean Smith and a management team, but there's always going to be little bumps in the road. And I think midway through that month, the Brighton game, because we thought going into that, Brighton, yes, are a really good side, and Potter's coached them really well, and they've got really good players at the back going forward with Molpe, who always causes controversy, but is such a good forward. But when I talk about Villa capitalising on the teams this season, doing really well, like I said, there's always going to be bumps in the road. And I felt that draw against Brighton midway through the month, it was just a bad day at the office, really.
Oh, yeah. That was very poor performance. We were off it, all the team, weren't they? I think it highlights more Brighton's season than ours, even, that they didn't win. They absolutely dominated us. They had 27 shots at our goal, and we hardly had any at theirs. And how on earth we left that game with a point and a clean sheet is beyond me. But Brighton have gone on since to lose at home to Palace when they should have won the game comfortably. Benteke scoring right at the death, and also they've contrived to lose at West Brom, where they missed 2 penalties and scored a goal which very unluckily disallowed by the sort of Lee Mason character, who's dreadful ref. So they've been horribly unlucky. They've got 1 point out of those 3 games, ours, Palace and Albion, and it's put them right back in trouble. And as you say, they play a lot of good football, and they totally outplayed us on the day. But we got away with it. Dean Smith said it wasn't even an average performance, but if there was one thing to come out of it, was the resilience again of the team, that they somehow, incredibly, you know, with a bit of help, bad finishing, etc., but they came out with a point. So they played very badly, but got something out the game. So, you know, that's always a good sign that a team can play that badly and get something. So, you know, we took it gladly and moved on to the next one.
As you said, moving on to the next one, the bad form unluckily continued onto that Leicester game. And I believe that's the game at which Grealish didn't play. And we really had to change our way, our tactics, because we were not necessarily 100% reliant on him, but he's a main factor in us being effective offensively. So to play without him and to start El Ghazi's, your Trezeguet, your Traorés, who are still good players, but aren't to the level of Grealish, is always a big woe for Aston Villa. And with Leicester having your Vardys, your Barnes, your Maddisons, they have some great talents of their own. And with Villa not really know how to defend during that game and how to avoid any attack from Leicester City, it was a really strange one, because the Brighton game we were dreadful, the Leicester game we were dreadful, but it always, for me, it was a learning curve in the fact that I know you said that you don't believe that we were 100% in the second half in terms of work rate, etc. But for me, throughout that game, it's almost as if Villa learned to play without Grealish and adapt to his style, which then we went on against Leeds to secure that victory. So the Leicester game did work in certain ways.
Yeah, I mean, so the game, of course, started with all the controversy of the leak that Grealish was injured. You know, it had broken on social media on Friday afternoon that Grealish wasn't going to play. It started as a rumour. A lot of people were saying to the people that were putting it out there, "Oh, stop scaremongering, stop making things up for attention, etc." But as you know, there's no smoke without fire, and the more people that said it, the more you started to realise this was probably going to be true. And of course, Dean Smith has gone on to now ban all Villa players from playing fantasy football, so that these sort of things can't happen. I don't think that actually was the main reason why people worked it out. Yes, there was part of it, but I think there was a genuine leak from the training ground. But after Dean's made quite a big deal about this, I'm probably sure that will be, you know, that won't happen again. So yeah, I mean, it's a blow when you hear that Jack's out. You know, he is absolutely so pivotal to our attacking threat, as you said. I mean, you know, he's just such a great player. The way he carries the ball, the way he runs off the ball, the way he passes the ball, the way he can score and create goals. So you take Jack Grealish out of any team nowadays, they would miss him. So. And certainly a team that's, you know, still evolving like us. So yes, it was going to be a big challenge to play Leicester with him. Without him, very big. And especially as we were coming into the game on a bit of patchy form. Let's not forget Jack played in that Brighton game, and that was probably, the Brighton game was probably the worst performance of the month, to be honest. I think Leicester wasn't much better, but it was a bit better considering the second half improvements. And the higher standard of opposition and no Jack. So, yeah, as you say, perhaps I'm being a bit harsh as far as that they were having to learn and against very good opponents, and that the second half was an improvement, that they pushed Leicester back. And although they didn't create much, they at least didn't collapse, having gone 2 goals down so quickly in the first half. They could have easily, folded like they did last season against Leicester at home and away in the league, where they conceded 4 goals on both occasions. So they to lose 2-1 in the end probably wasn't the worst thing in the world. And the way they've gone on as we move on to the final game, Leeds, and as we mentioned, freshened it up with some fresh legs in midfield. And we mustn't forget also, we're talking about Jack not playing against Leicester, but we also didn't have Matt Cash not playing against Leicester, that left Al Mohammadi against Harvey Barnes, which is that's difficult. And so I think that on the day, the Leicester game, that was almost as pivotal, actually. The fact that Cash wasn't playing as Jack not playing. So it was a double blow. So to recover so well and win the Leeds game, for the first time going into that Leeds game, I was just reading message after message on Twitter from Villa fans expecting us to lose. I haven't seen that much this season. I think people have got so positive about the way we approach games and how competitive we've been in this league this season that often you've seen, predicted wins for Villa, no matter who we were playing. But I think virtually everybody thought Leeds would turn us over, especially after the way they'd beaten us 3-0 at Villa Park earlier in the season. So, it was terrific that they won.
And there are a few players from both Leicester and Leeds that I could highlight who are real star talents. But in regards to Leicester, I think one man who doesn't get the credit he deserves, especially from fans beyond Leicester City's walls, is Harvey Barnes. And he's injured now, but throughout that Leicester City squad, they're really good players in different positions. But I believe that when he went over to West Brom on loan and showed his quality, came back into a Premier League side and sustained his place, I think he deserves full credit from any opposition fans, and he showed that against Villa.
Yeah, I really like Harvey Barnes too, and it goes back to when he was playing for Albion in the Championship when we were down there with them, and I think he's top player. He's so direct, and he has really good end product. He scores goals, he makes goals. He's an absolute key player for them, and they're really going to miss him. I don't know how bad the injury is, but I know he'll stretch it off. And the fact that Maddison's injured as well, that's dangerous times for Leicester, could really derail them. They've got quite a lot of injuries at that club at the moment. And genuinely, we've managed to avoid injuries at Villa this season. And I think obviously a little bit of that is luck with injuries, but also a lot of it's to do with conditioning and performance coaches. And I think they look after the players exceptionally well now at Villa. And I think there's no coincidence that our injury record is in the main very good.
Now, going forward to the month of March, I know that it's been a mixed February, but I want to see what your predictions are for the month of March. So we've got a few tough games, but I want to start off with Sheffield United, who of course have performed woefully this season. And I really believe that this is a game to really boost Villa's confidence. So I just want to get your thoughts on that game. It's in a few days' time. And where do you believe Aston Villa will be in terms of the result by the end of it?
I'll tell you what, why don't we do predictions each and then we can review them next time?
Oh, don't put the pressure on me. Don't put the pressure on me. Go on then. You go first.
Yeah. So, all right, Sheffield United, we need to win the game. I mean, if we want to aspire to finishing in a European place, we need 3 points. I think it might be a bit trickier than people expect because I think they're going to sit and we're going to have to break them down. First goal will be key, as it is in all Aston Villa fixtures this season. If they were to get it, it might become an uncomfortable night. If we get it, absolutely, I think we'll absolutely win the game. A comfortable 2-0. There you go. 2-0 to Villa.
Okay. I believe it will be easier. The game will be easier than you're putting it. I believe that we'll have the capabilities to easily push over Chris Wilder's side. I know that at times, and as the season's progressing now, they're becoming better defensively and offensively, and they were challenging Man United in certain games, and they've really come into their own now. But I do believe that we have the capabilities to wipe them over. I'm saying, I don't know if I should push the boat or not. I'm saying 3-0. 3-0. 3-0.
Go on. Now, is that with Jack playing or no Jack? Because we don't know if he's going to be fit or not, do we?
This is the thing. I think that during that game, players like El Ghazi really stepped up. And I think with Grealish or without Grealish, those players will continue to thrive and try and sustain and claim that place in the side. So I think that a game against Sheffield United is a really good chance for your Trezeguet or El Ghazis to really contribute with goals and assists, and I think that Villa will comfortably win that one.
The corresponding fixture earlier in the season, we were a bit fortunate to win 1-0. I thought that should have been a draw, really, but it was another classic Villa 0-1 victory. But Yeah, I think that we could maybe nick it again 1-0, but then they could nick it 1-0. I think it'll be a tight game. And I hate predicting Villa defeats, but I'm afraid I'm going to predict a 1-0 defeat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
That'll be very popular, won't it?
I think 2-1. I think 2-1 because, I think surely Grealish will be back by then. I believe so. And hopefully we can then push forward. And I do believe it'll be a tough game. They've got something to play for. They want to finish as high as they can to make up for the difficulties and losses this season. So I'm going to follow your ideology and say it'll be a tough game. But I think Villa will nick it by 1 goal, 2-1 to Villa.
Yeah, it really could go either way, that one. And I think, again, who scores first will be vital.
Well, you're talking just then about Steve Bruce, and the next game is Newcastle away. Now, they have come into their own in terms of getting important victories, but they're not consistent enough. So where do you think this one will lay for Aston Villa?
Yeah, I've always fancied us against Bruce sides. I think Smith has had the sign over Bruce when Smith was manager of Brentford and Bruce was manager of Villa. Brentford used to always beat us comfortably. So although I think Newcastle are improving, I thought they looked a lot better the last couple of games I've seen them. If Saint-Maximin is playing, that makes quite a big difference. I think he hobbled off the other night, so I don't know how. Yeah, whether he plays or not could be quite important. Whether Callum Wilson's back, but I think I can see us winning that one. Yeah, I'll go with a 2-0.
Yeah, I think Saint-Maximin's out. I think Callum Wilson's around a month away, so he could be back in time for them. But then again, he won't be till it's fully fittest version of himself, so he won't potentially be as clinical and as influential as he normally is. But I do believe that, you look back at last season and it was a 1-1 draw away, and that point really helped us to gain survival in the Premier League, and that Elmo header was what secured that point. So it's just weird looking back then at the circumstances that lay for Aston Villa, and now we're trying to push on for that Europa League place. And it's so exciting to see the development of Aston Villa, and I think we'll continue this way of victories, and I believe it will be, I say 2-0 as well. 2-0 to Villa. I think 2-0 for that game. And then the last game is Tottenham Hotspur at home, have recently just overtook us after their victory yesterday with a really good performance from one man, Gareth Bale, as well. Where do you think that will lay for Aston Villa? Because like I said, they've got great players in Heung-min Son. They've got Gareth Bale's coming into his own now. How do you think Villa will do in that game?
So again, a lot will depend on who's playing. I mean, if Spurs have Son, Kane, and Bale playing the way they did yesterday against Burnley, they looked a good side again yesterday, didn't they? I mean, they've flattered to deceive for the last couple of months. They've been really pretty poor, and pressure's been building on Mourinho as a result. Earlier in the season they were at the top for a while, and they've really leveled off and done quite badly. Harry Kane's absolutely critical to them. When he plays, they're a different side. I can see them beating us, I'm afraid. I think they'll beat us. I'm going to say another win. We might get a draw, but I don't know. I think they'll enjoy playing us at Villa. Is it? Were we at home in that one, or were they at home?
We're at home, yeah.
We're at home. Not that it makes a great deal of difference without the fans at the moment, but I think they'll be quite good at hitting us on the counter attack. Again, it'll largely depend on our tactics on the day. We certainly have the capability to beat them, but I think Spurs are just coming into some good form now. And although it's still a couple of weeks away, that could have changed by then. If they're pretty full strength and we're pretty full strength, I think they might just beat us 2-1.
I think for any player coming back to the English Premier League, whether they've had experience here for a few years ago or they haven't played at all, it takes time for players to really develop and understand the league itself, because compared to your La Ligas, your Bundesligas is probably one of the most physically demanding leagues in the world.
Frenetic, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think for Gareth Bale, like I said, it's took him time. He hasn't played as much as he wanted to in his final few years at Real Madrid. And he's come over here on loan, and he's now starting to really make an impact and linking up with Son and sort of making another option for Tottenham, who, like you said, are really reliant on Harry Kane and his ability to hold the ball up, assist, and as well score goals. But I think this will be a really entertaining draw. I think 2-2 is on the cards here. 2-2, I believe this week.
Should have been 2-2 last season, shouldn't it? Do you remember? And they scored right at the death.
Yeah.
That was our last home game with fans, you know, that 2-3 defeat. I remember I was actually in Barbados at the time, and I was watching it on at a bar with a load of Spurs fans. It was a nightmare.
I was in a more exotic location called Wales.
There you go.
Well, hopefully by this time next season, all the Villa fans will be in attendance away and at home. And like you said, the world's becoming into a better place. We're seeing that there's light at the end of the tunnel now. And I believe that come next season, we'll start to see more Villa fans, like I said, voicing their opinions in a passionate manner at B6. So hopefully, like I said, Villa are successful in the month of March, successful for the rest of the season. And we look forward to potentially having Villa fans back in the stadium for next season. Howard, it's been a pleasure to have you on again, and hopefully we can talk again in a month's time. Yeah,
and we'll go through our predictions and see who was wrong. Liam, I'm expecting 10 points now then? Now you've told me. If I tell you what, if we do get the results you've predicted, and there's no reason why we can't, by the way, then we'll be in really good shape in the table.
I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Go and follow Howard over on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. But most importantly, stay safe, stay well, and up the Villa.
I keep being too caught up by all my demons, lost without that.